A new cipher will, a new glyph, emails, multiple emails from the old gods, addresses being asked for their Atlas passes, and a live event in New York. And also an interview with DM21 Gaming, who was there at the live event and gave additional behind-the-scenes footage. All that and more here on Cobra TV. How you doing, guys? Thank you for coming back to Cobra TV. So we ended up getting, so much has happened, guys. So much. We're going to run down it very quickly, not stopping to smell the roses when I get to this interview with DM21 Gaming. Okay, so a 7th glyph became activated, and attached to that was another PDF, but this time a more fancier PDF. And it reads, Breakthroughs and Breaking Through, Berlin Symposium on Metaphysical Inquiries, October 14th, 2014. Elizabeth Layton, CEO, Atlas Foundation. Then it reads, Humanity's Oldest Questions. What is reality? What is our purpose? Does anything I perceive truly exist? Does mankind have free will? Is there a world beyond my senses? Are other people real and conscious like I am? If I were dreaming, how would I know? The Atlas Foundation is using cutting-edge science to find these answers and more. We believe the world is, and then there is a place where a video should be, but it says error, and then it says we're going to prove it. We propose building a detailed and incredibly high-powered artificial intelligence capable of simulating and accurately predicting even the most chaotic systems in existence. If our theory is right, Theory A sufficiently complex sub-simulation would require access to more resources than are available to our universe. This would cause a detectable slowdown in our own universe. If our theory is right, Theory B, our own simulation is of limited complexity, so a sub-simulation would be able to achieve identical complexity and perfectly predict reality as it happens or before. Our family of companies, Echo, an artificial intelligence capable of self-tuning models of unprecedented complexity, Myriad, a computing platform that scales to be as complex as the universe itself, Multiverse, the knowledge and equipment to detect changes in the fabric of reality. Our work has already begun. Our early intelligence can predict robotic coin flips perfectly, win any strategy game against any component, and pass a text-only turning test. Then it gives another live demonstration, and yet we have an error. We are actively looking for researchers and investment partners. If you'd like to contribute to the most important work in the world, speak to us after the session. And then it gives a code 1DCCAB4. And in the background image of the glyph, it gave coordinates in New York. The coordinates could be seen right here on the screen. And then people interpreted the coordinates as points in a journey. This is how the journey would look. To travel from the first coordinate to the second, turn right and walk 5 blocks. To travel to the second coordinate to the third, turn left and walk 2 blocks, and so on. And that gave people the code 5R, 2L, 10R, 1R, 12L, 1R, 7L. Combining the cipher wheel with the code at the bottom of the PDF, the 1DCCAB4, we got the word passcode ended up being Cafe 888. So then we ended up getting a new email, and this email gave us another code to use on the cipher wheel. And when you got your passcode, you put it onto a website, just like the one before when we were trying to populate a picture, and this one ended up being the statue of the Atlas in New York. And it was all filled in. We could read date July 29th, time 16H15, protocol, use passcode Atlas, wear a bright color, and hold a black book in your hand. So I was watching on Discord when this is happening, and everyone's trying to scramble around, trying to figure out who's gonna go. You know, the first person that I seen that was gonna go was Chris. I ended up having to step away for a few hours, and by the time I came back, I found out that there was a whole bunch of people going, including DM21. And it was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. A bunch of people were walking through the city with black books in their hand, wearing bright colors, and people were just staring at everybody walking by. And there's this guy in front leading them, holding a purple umbrella up in the air and walking block after block after block after block. How cool is that? And then they led them to a building where they had them in 3 groups go into a dark room. There was a flashlight in there, but everyone ended up finding the light switch and turning on the light. Well, they had constellations all over the wall, and a puzzle and a briefcase, and they all figured it out pretty quickly. It was awesome seeing them communicating with Discord and things like that, and people were trying to tell them what combination to put in, and the combination ended up being 100003. And inside was one of those top secret documents. It was from Major Sophia Dubois to Titan Watch Task Force Pentagon, and subject was Loop 15, and it reads, "I'm reporting in that the Atlas Foundation has concluded Loop 15's testing and shut that process down for good. We'll deliver a full post-mortem to you under separate cover, but for now, this executive summary should bring you up to speed. The simulation was capable of perfectly predicting events in small scale, limited systems for up to 3 days before devolving into inaccuracy, and capable of predicting larger scale systems from up to 24 hours with an accuracy of 77%. We have identified 2 primary routes to improving Loop 15's performance in the next iteration and are already taking steps to enact them. 1, data collection. No matter how effective the underlying process is, the simulation is only good as the accuracy of its initial data set. Leighton and her team are working with Echo on a method that would allow the process to identify and acquire the information it needs directly and independently. 2, more power. Even the rudimentary simulations we ran with Loop 15 maxed out our computing capacity. In some cases, the simulation reached 100% perfect result, but processing time was so slow that the predicted events had already passed before we received any output. This is obviously not an ideal state of affairs. We're working with Myriad right now on a flexible solution that will allow us to access as much computing power as possible on a moment's notice. This should speed up the next loop dramatically. I'll continue to keep you informed as we progress." And all 3 groups actually had the chance to open up the briefcase. And to top everything off, we ended up getting an email from Old Gods talking about getting our addresses for the level 4 Atlas Pass, and it reads, "As a result of recent developments, this email is to inform you that your Atlas Pass designation has been changed." And then it gives me a designation class, and if I mention it here, it says not to mention this outside of the CSD, even though we all are part of the CSD. This message is going out into public, so I'm going to have to keep that private unless another CSD approaches me. I will tell that CSD. Each class designation has a unique strength that indicates your key role in our ongoing experiment. Remember, stay vigilant and do not share your class designation outside of the Citizen Science Division. Level 4 Atlas Pass data gathering. To be eligible for a physical copy of your Atlas Pass, you need to provide your mailing information by clicking here. This is not a guarantee that you will receive a physical copy of the Level 4 Atlas Pass. However, if you do not give us your mailing information for obvious reasons, we won't be able to send you anything. Your address will be validated and added to the mailing process. You will receive a shipping notification. We will announce when all Level 4 Atlas Passes have been shipped. And that is so amazing, and I hope everyone listening to this actually gets one of these. And I gotta say, even though receiving package 9 of 16 and getting one of those tapes was an overwhelming feeling of excitement, but I could not imagine being at this live event and being walked around the city, led into a dark room, and having to solve one of these puzzles while you're live on Twitch, live on Periscope, live on Facebook, and live on everything else. It had to be an amazing feeling. And meeting some awesome No Man's Sky fans face-to-face had to be just a profound experience. And we're going to talk to DM21 Gaming today about that experience, about what it was like, the road trip there, and being able to physically be a part of one of the ARGs instead of solving it from home or looking at something from home. Physically being there among actors, among, the puzzles, face to face, had to be such an amazing feeling. So we're going to go ahead and talk to DM21 Gaming about that right now. All right, and it looks like we are live. Thank you, everybody, for coming back to Cobra TV, another live broadcast to Cobra TV. And we have a special guest on today's show, someone who I am extremely jealous of. two special guests, DM20 and DM21 Gaming and Tanantha. How you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. Everybody should know me as Bicycle Walrus, and my wife is Tanantha. Together we are DM21 Gaming.
Gotcha. Yep. Gotcha. A little bit of Cobra mistake there. Sorry.
That's all.
It happens all the time.
Okay, so we have both of you on the show, so we do have a good, conversation. I mean, you guys took a massive road trip, and I want to hear all about it. I mean, what made you guys decide to say, okay, we're doing this?
Well, her took the nagging of a very, very desperate husband, I'm sure. And as for us, we and I just coined a term for these guys today. I'm like, man, these guys do so much work on Waking Titan and in No Man's Sky in general, and I just always call them the No Man's Sky people. But we decided that I'm just going to give them an official term, the Discovery Team. That's what we call them, and those are the guys that are constantly sitting there. As soon as Waking Titan stuff goes up, they're on it. They're very sharp people, and we solve things pretty darn quick. And within just a few moments after the ARG emails went out, the Waking Titan emails went out yesterday morning, they solved all the riddles, and they were watching the Azure Voyage mission picture load in, and they realized that it was a live drop in New York, and they weren't quite sure what time because that spot hadn't filled in quite yet. And that's when I woke up. And I came downstairs, and I was tired because of my computer issues. Yeah, I fixed it, or I thought I did. And then we went downstairs, let the dogs out, and I saw that I had an email. So I just was like, "Hey guys, how you guys doing?" And they're like, "Hey, do you know anybody in New York?" I'm like, "No, what's going on in New York?" So they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh well, I guess we got a road trip."
Wow!
And
so just like that,
spur of the moment. Yep.
Yeah.
4-hour drive.
Totally spur of the moment.
Wow, 4-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 200 miles. We're basically like right in Baltimore, and so Baltimore to New York City is about 200 miles. Man. 4 hours. Yeah.
And you said you guys made it there just in time.
Oh, I would say we were late.
Like we were late.
We were stuck in traffic, and what happened was we were stuck in traffic, and it's 4:30. And we're on 10th and 42nd Street, and Rockefeller is on 6th Avenue. And so we were several blocks away, and we were just stuck. We watched the light cycle through 5 times, and we weren't moving. And eventually, it's like, look, I didn't drive all the way up here to blow the trip and not get in. So I pulled a New York Minute, just drove out in the middle of traffic, went straight into the parking garage across from us, and we booked it. And the thing what was going on is that they had already left Rockefeller, and they were walking to Champion Studio, but we didn't know where they were going at the time and what was going on. And we had a point of contact with our Discovery team, Silent Moment Phelps Girl, that's her nickname. And I called her up and I said, "All right, where are they going? Where do I need to go?" And this poor lady has a very panicked walrus on the other end. We're in the middle of New York, a place I've hardly ever been to in my entire life. I think I've been there once before back in high school. Yeah. And we're like, where are they going? What street are they on? Which direction are they going? And it was, and she was on the phone with 35 people in our No Man's Sky Discovery team. They were all in Discord, like some kind of weird mission control center. Yeah. And like they were all working real hard to figure out exactly where they were going, what was happening, and they relayed that information to Silent Moment Phelps Girl, and she told us where to go. And then it was a very desperate moment because we were on 39th Street. And they were on 39th Street. They were on like around 6th Avenue, and we were around 9th Avenue. And they were walking to 7th. It's like, okay, so we know where to go. We're going to walk straight down 32nd, cross 9th, cross 8th, and we'll probably run into them. Well, right before we would have ran into them, they stopped to go inside the building for Champion Studio. And we were on the other side of 8th, and they were on the other side still by 7th. And there was this huge line of traffic, And we couldn't see anything, and we're like, "Oh my goodness!" They stopped. Where are they going? And and they're telling us, "Oh, they're going inside a building." I'm like, "What? They're going inside a building?" "Yeah, they're going inside a building." I'm like, "Holy crap!" And eventually the traffic, sort of subsides. We get the walk sign, but cars are still going. They don't care. And so Samantha's like, "Oh no, they're still crossing." I'm like, "I don't care, girl." I went straight New York style, freaking across the street. I almost hit this cab driver's hood on his car because he wouldn't stop. I was about ready to do one of those things where you slam on somebody's hood. I was ready, man. I'm like, I'm in New York. I got places to go.
Right.
So, I was ready. Because nothing was going to get between me and getting in there. I was not going to blow this trip.
Yeah.
And especially knowing how many people were counting on us. And so we crossed the street, and I see everybody. I just see a huge gaggle of people just disappear into a building. And I'm like, Tanantha, we got to book it. We got to run.
Yeah.
And so we ran, and sure enough, right about where they went into the building, because I see this dude, this guy, and he's got this purple umbrella in his hand. And I'm like, "You're my man, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, get in here." And so we follow
very
him
nonchalant and just like, yeah, I guess we can let you in. It's like, what?
Wow, that is just in time, man. I mean, literally.
It was just the nick of time. And so I'm on the phone with Simon Momentsfeld's girl, and I tell her, I said, "We made it," and I hung up. And what I didn't hear, what I was told about later, was that when I told her we made it and I hung up the phone, everybody in Discord erupted into cheers, and they were happy. They were like, "We did it!" It was like, they landed a man on the moon or something. It was crazy.
Wow. That is awesome. So what did it feel like going into that building, not even knowing what the heck was going on, and being in front of people? And you met two of your fans there?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That is really awesome. And
happy to see him.
Yeah. And being in front of a bunch of people from the No Man's Sky community had to be awesome too, instead of just interacting with them over the internet, but how did it feel? Like, what was going through your mind? What did you think was going to happen?
Well, and you saw the video, so there was only one thing on my mind when we got in there. A 4-hour road trip with coffee and water will do stuff to you.
Oh, bathroom.
And it distracted me from the very creepy moment of waiting in a very, very, very small lobby of a very large building in New York that we're not used to being in. And it's a pretty rundown building, very old building. It feels like an old building.
No AC.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And so, when I first got in there, my first thought was, what did we miss? Like, what do I need to take notes on? What did we miss? And so the guy went with what we thought was the first group. It was actually the second group of 6. He took them in the elevator to go up to the 14th floor. And so we were left down there. We were the last group to go up. And so after he left, I was like, "Okay, guys, do we miss anything?" And there was a couple other people there. They're like, "Oh, no, definitely not. All we did was we met at the statue, and then we just walked down here, and that's all." And I'm like, really? I was like, oh my goodness, how lucky are we that we didn't miss anything, that we got here really just in time. And so, but yeah, and then it was just kind of chatting, and everybody "Okay, where are you guys from?" And pretty much everyone there was from the city or other parts of New York that it took them less than an hour or so to get there. And they were like, "Wait, you drove from Baltimore?" And we're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Wow, you guys must really be fans."
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them were really surprised too, because they were like, "Dude, we didn't know about this until 2 o'clock, and we thought we were early on the jump." I'm like, "When did you know?" I was like, "We knew at 11, it wasn't even 11. The Discovery team knew as early as probably 10 o'clock in the morning." And I just nonchalantly came down with my dogs, let them in, and just "Hey, what's up?" And they told me what was going on around 10:30. So we were out the door within an hour of knowing. I mean, we just bolted.
That's awesome, man. So, as I seen you interrogated somebody about what was going on, I think he was group 2, right, with the candy bar.
Correct. Yes, I interrogated a couple people while I was there, because we weren't going to leave, without opening that darn briefcase. And at the time, Group 1 went in, and they got as far as knowing that there was a code prime. That's all they knew. Now, it could be prime numbers. We don't know what kind of prime numbers. And they did this whole exercise with matching constellations from a piece of paper onto the star maps that were hanging around the room. And they determined that that whole exercise was to come up with the word prime. And that was as far as they had gotten. And they were trying to see if they could make sense of the numbers on the pages, because each page had a number. Mm-hmm. And those numbers didn't, those numbers didn't correlate with anything at all. The clue for prime came from the first letter of the constellation names, and each one of the ones that they were able to match. And that's how they got to prime. So they were trying to make sense of those numbers and turn those numbers into a combination, but they could have done that all day. It wouldn't have worked. It was just now Sabadio, the gentleman that we met there, and his son Axel, he was about ready. His idea was, let's just go through every single 6-digit prime number. There can't be that many, and until we get a combination that works. And that was sort of his thought. And and given another 5 minutes, he would have had that briefcase open within the first group. But the other guys in the group were focused on. One of them even mentioned atomic numbers. I'm like, oh, I don't know how he got to it. I was like, dang. I didn't put it in the video, but I made a comment along the lines of, oh, I'm afraid the smartest group went first. Like, how are we going to figure this out? Yeah.
Well, it's awesome that you were the last group. I mean, you got to keep the all the papers hanging on the wall, the constellations and everything. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad we were the ones to be able to do that. We took that responsibility very seriously. We took the documents home, we scanned them in, put them in the PDF, and we shared it out with our video. We wanted to make sure everybody got their hands on those documents so they can print them out themselves, or just hold on to them for holding on to them's sakes, or maybe even get some information out of them. But it was, I was happy that we were able to do that, because we have the tools at home to get it done. Right. And get it out there.
Yeah, one of my fans ended up giving me the link, and I had no idea that it came from you, because I didn't see your video yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. As soon as we got home, he's like, okay, your job is to scan the documents in. And I'm like, oh, great. It's like a pile of like 20-something pages. And of course, it didn't work the first time. The connection failed. I was like, no, I got to do it again.
Right.
But he stayed up until 4 a.m. working on that video. So yeah, I can't complain too much. I mean, it was definitely a long day yesterday, but it was definitely worth it. And just to see our community come together and help us like that. And I mean, we had them on Discord while we were in the room. They were helping us and everything. And so it was really neat.
Yeah. I mean, receiving tape 9 of 16 was a tremendous feeling. And I can't imagine what it would be like to literally be, physically a part of the ARG, like in a place where the ARG is taking place and you're counted on right there and the whole world is watching. It had to be just a tremendous experience. And I can't even imagine what it would be like.
Yeah, and I mean, it was something that I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, we're the heroes, we have to go do this. No, I mean, there was a bunch of other people there, and then the unfortunate thing was people were busy. Some people had to go off to work. This was last minute. No one, you gotta be a YouTuber full time to be like, I can stick around and I can handle this and get the full scoop and get the full experience because I have the time. Unfortunately, a lot of the other guys they had to go. They had other obligations, other places to be. A lot of them were local to New York. Yeah. So, when the third group went in, because the second group solved the puzzle, there was actually 4 groups that went into the room. When the third group went in, they just went in, put the combo in, opened up the briefcase, read the paper, and they were out. So it wouldn't have been any fun to watch that. Now, we went in and we at least, asked Sabadio, hey, walk us through. What did you guys do? Tell us about your experience. What were you thinking? What paths were you going down trying to solve it? And in the first group, I really feel like they were very much an independent group of people trying to figure out on very largely on their own with the 6 minds in that room. Yeah. Whereas the second group was guided heavily by community, which is great. I don't think You know, I mean, unless we start brute forcing prime numbers in there, I'm glad that game detectives were a part of that. People on Reddit were a part of it. You know, there was game communities from all across the No Man's Sky spectrum, and by the time we got in there, it was like, well, all right, Discord, walk us through it. And then I realized Sabaccio was in there. I was like, oh, this dude did it, so just go ask him.
Yeah, right. So you actually, poked the woman that was there for information, asked her a bunch of Emily questions, and then all of a sudden, she's looking at her phone and she goes, I'm sorry, I can't ask anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was oh man, come on.
I think she gave us what she was meant to give us, which was the stuff about Emily. She had definitely had a prepared statement that she said several times regarding Emily. So this wasn't just a, Emily, she's just off doing Emily things, She was actually very prepared to make that statement. So knowing that Emily also made an appearance on the live stream, and we knew that when we started asking her like Emily questions, specifically in the room, that Emily was important, and that since she had opened up about Emily earlier, it's like, we're going to get to the bottom of this and get as much information out of her as we could, because no one else is here to ask these questions, so I'd better get it done.
Wow. So her response was, ducks don't echo.
Yeah, ducks quack don't echo. But I don't know how important that statement is in terms of getting to the truth. The other two statements she made regarding Emily were that she was very familiar with Emily,
right?
But she made it very clear she didn't know Emily, or that she wasn't her friend. I tried, but you said you were her friend. She didn't. Yeah. But I was trying to get her to say that she was friends. And you learn techniques, I guess, when you interview people, right, to try to get information. And so she made it very clear that she was very familiar with Emily, and that Emily is doing Emily things. And when we asked about whether or not she was an echo, she had a very, again, prepared statement, which ended up being, as she put it, fake news, because, Mythbusters busted them out. Yeah. But her original response was definitely prepared, and then she said something about whether or not it matters, or she rambled off a little something after that, but it was kind of like you can take what you want from that. Yeah. So to me, it sounds like the answer is yes. The Emily that we saw on the Awakened Titan stream yesterday was an echo, and it's not the actual Emily that we're familiar with in the vlogs.
That's interesting. Very interesting. So at the end of your video, was she coming out of the building and kind of got shocked that you guys were still there?
Well, we went down. We had dinner. Fluffmaster, Night Shadow, Sabadio, and Axel, Tanantha, and I. We all went and got dinner. So it was just a Mexican place on 8th Avenue, just right around the corner. And Fluffmaster and Night Shadow had parked their car literally right in front of the building we went into. Great parking.
Yep.
I don't know how they scored it, but they scored it. And so we left our stuff in the car. So we went to the Mexican restaurant. We had nice burritos, had a very long conversation. It was awesome. And we finished eating, and we went back to Fluffmaster's car to pick up our stuff. And it just so happened that Christina was just standing out in front of the building. Now, I was I made sure real quick, hey guys, she's off the clock. We can say hi and be nice to her, but please don't ask her any questions about Waking Titan. And we didn't follow up with any additional questions at that point. She was off the clock. We were out of the room. We were just getting done eating dinner, and I wanted to film the interview with Sabaccio before we left. And so we set up the interview. We did it, and then she was still there. So I was like, wouldn't that just be funny if I just turned the camera real quick?
Oh my goodness.
So that's what I did.
And Axel did his little photo bomb.
It was a great shot.
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Yeah, the first group that went in, that kid, man, he was I think a bigger help than any of the adults that were in the room at first.
Yeah, he's definitely really smart, really quick on the uptake. I mean, he saw the pictures on the paper on the table and was like, wait, those match with the constellations on the wall. We got to find this. And he was the one to kind of figure that out. And he found, I think, at least 2 of the constellations himself. Yeah. And so, I mean, I was like, wow, that is awesome. But yeah, I think, I think one of your callers from last night mentioned like that kids or you mentioned that kids aren't like jaded like adults are, and they are able to explore their whole mind in a sense and figure out the answer to the riddle. And sometimes it's simpler than we think. Yes. And whereas as adults, we're jaded, we're told not to think of the simple thing, to think of the more complex thing. And so like a lot of times we don't see that simple thing because we're like, oh, it can't be that. It's got to be something more complex. Right. And so I think having him in the room was definitely beneficial. And I think he had a great experience, which you really need, that they were able to have that father-son bonding time, and that they were a huge part of helping the second group really get to opening the suitcase. So.
Right. Yeah. And, he's never going to forget that moment either. I mean, it's going to be with him for a long time. And, the adults that were in the room, they knew that they were, being streamed. Everyone's stressed out, like, oh, my God. Here's this hard puzzle. People are watching us. We can't figure it out. And he didn't have that stress. Yeah. He's just, and they're all freer than most of the adults are with hardly distress. You know what I mean? So he was able to, look with a more clear mind. And just amazing stuff, man. Amazing. So how do you feel? Do you feel any different about the ARG after being a part of it physically?
Well, I mean, for the longest time, and I've mentioned this on my own vlogs, and I hardly ever do Waking Titan videos. At first, I really wasn't sure what to make of it. I'm like, what are they doing? Is this an actual good marketing? Is this going to bring new people to the game? Like, well, what's the goal here? And I was very unsure about it until Phase 2 started and CSD happened. Citizen Science Division was, to me, the turning point for Waking Titan and turning it into something that's actually interesting, fun, tangible, approachable by a lot of people. And I say this on my own content a lot, is that, the No Man's Sky audience isn't on Reddit. They're not on YouTube. They're not following their favorite YouTuber. And some of them are, but a good vast majority of them, the people who are playing this game, they're not glued into a lot of the social media stuff. I mean, Sabaccio and Axel were very good examples of just a father-son pairing who they're not on Reddit. They don't belong to a gaming community. They're just father and son duo. Let's figure out these puzzles and have fun with it. Yeah. And they were doing that, and now they're a part of CSD. I mean, Sabaccio was wearing a name tag at his Citizen Science Division, sort of his own homemade name tag, which I'm pretty sure Axel made. It was awesome, Yeah. And he identifies with that as his community. And in the vlog post, I put it up before I even knew this was going to be an event. I basically said that I think that Hello Games is finally doing what they needed to do, and they're organizing the No Man's Sky community underneath one arm, which is CSD, which I felt they needed to do so badly to kind of unite the greater No Man's Sky community, as opposed to just sort of feeding these separate, disparate groups. So when I saw them doing that, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is why they're doing this, and it makes sense and it works. And now we're not just identifying as, well, I'm with Game Detectives or I'm with Reddit. No, we're CSD, right? And we're going to do this together.
And I think what's cool, a lot of people they're saying, oh, Hello Games is hyping this up. Didn't they learn from the first time? The ARG is creating a lot of hype, but I think we as fans are the ones that are creating the hype, and which is normal. That's not a bad thing. Of course we're going to do that. It's human nature. We're excited. But I think the ARG, what it really is the very thing that people have been screaming at Hello Games to do for the past year: be engaged with the community. And that's exactly what this is designed to do. And that's, what they're doing. They're engaging with us in a very fun way. Throughout this ARG, they've never once promised anything with this update. They haven't said this feature is going to be here. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. I bet you can't wait, can you? And so nothing like that's been said. It's just engagement with the fans of the game. And it's like you said, they're not trying to reach new players. They're tailoring to the people who are still in the community.
Yeah, and that was why I was a little unsure at first. It's like, who's really going to listen to this? And then it's like, oh yeah, I want to go pick up No Man's Sky out of it. And it wasn't until I'm like, oh, CSD, this makes sense. We're on a mailing list. First, like, why do you want my mailing, address? Like, what's going to happen? Like, are they doing a beta test or something? I thought it was a beta test. A lot of people.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're like, oh no, this is how they want to engage with their community. And now, like I said, we got people with homemade CSD name tags, and it's like, that's awesome. I mean, that's just and that's the way it should be, and sort of unite the communities here, and I think that was absolutely something that needed to happen. I'm sure you've had things said your way that you're kind of like, oh, that's inappropriate and wrong. I mean, that's just not true. And I've had that thing said about me, and it's like, well, that's just not true. So, and there is something that's the elephant in the room no one wants to talk about is I do sense that there is a bit of hostility between some of the different No Man's Sky groups between each other. And I'm hoping that CSD and events like the ARG and the events and like now that we're split up into different classes, different Atlas 4 passes, I'm hypothesizing that we're going to get different parts of the puzzle, and some of these communities might not have an L15 past person, so they're going to have to reach out to Reddit or reach out to maybe even the DM21 Gaming Discovery team to try to get that part of the puzzle to finish. And so, like, someone was suggesting, hey, do you think these Atlas passes denote factions? I'm like, no, they're doing this so they can bring us together.
Discovery.
And then they asked the question, what gaming group do you belong to? Are you getting help from a group? Who's helping you? And in one of the surveys. And so I think that they're strategically withholding certain classes of passes from certain groups. And therefore are going to make us work together.
And that makes a lot of sense, man. It does. My question for you, and I ask this to a lot of people, we're approaching the anniversary of No Man's Sky. With Phase 3 still left and Phase 2 isn't done yet, do you think that they would wait past the anniversary of No Man's Sky to release the game, or the update? And if not, do you think that Phase 3 can be played within the game?
Well, I'm hoping that August 9th is the release date. I'm hoping. Okay. Crossing my fingers on that. There was some supporting evidence for that a couple weeks ago that made it sound like August 9th seemed to be the day that they would be releasing this update. And they definitely said that it's going to be done then. And we were told that all 3 phases of Waking Titan will be finished prior to the release of this. At least I believe we were. You hear a bunch of information that gets clouded. Sometimes
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
Okay, I am right. Good. And so the thing here is that we've been fairly accelerating. An in-person physical event is huge, especially at the scale that this one was. This wasn't just like, here, have an item, take it home and share it with the world. This was hey, everybody, we got a puzzle for you. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a very different experience, and it was a uniting experience. It wasn't meant for just one person or just one community to go pick it up. This was an event for everyone. And now, granted, more people showed up than they expected, but that was a good thing. They viewed that as a very positive thing, that more people showed up than expected. And so it's making it very clear to me that, as far as, when these phases are ending or when they're starting or whether or not it'll come out before or are they going to wait past, the anniversary, they know the release date, and I think they've known the release date for quite some time.
Right.
The way that this whole thing has been scheduled out, And I wouldn't be surprised if this new build has been ready for a while, and they're just fine-tuning, adding, and just making sure that it's perfect. Because if this thing isn't perfect out the gate, they're going to be held to an even higher level of scrutiny, because they're calling this their big update. They're calling this, they did the ARG for this, so it needs to run right. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had something they would be willing to put out. But they're just fine-tuning it and making it right.
Yeah, and I imagine it's got to be significant compared to the other two updates. And the only reason why I say that is because they simply just dropped a trailer, and then a day or two later, thank you, Ryan, dropped, the update. And this one has had to be pretty expensive for them, with all the live events, the advertising on Howard Stern, and all the other advertisements on the radio stations.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was one of the best-selling games of 2016 for an indie studio with very, very low overhead. And so, I mean, they're kind of swimming in it right now. So, they can get away with some things like this. And I'm glad that they're actually spending the money to do things like this. Oh, yeah. I mean, uniting the community and getting us working together is a very, very important thing, especially if they want to continue doing these types of puzzles inside of No Man's Sky itself.
Right.
And I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen, and that I'm going to be floating through the universe somewhere, and I find something, and it's this crazy puzzle, and I go to the Discovery team, or I go to Game Detectives, or I go to Reddit, or I go to the No Man's Sky Discord channel and or my friends, or my son, or whoever, and say, hey, look at this. I need your help. What the heck is this? And then,
yeah, man.
And then you solve it, and then it's like it's the clue to the next part of the story, but you're nowhere near where the next part is. But hey, your buddy, Unit Z is over there. He'll go check it out.
Yeah.
And then now we're doing something together. And I'm really hoping, because that's what's lacking in No Man's Sky right now is content. We have the worlds. It's a very, very large world. And now we need some depth. And if this is the type of depth they're doing outside the game, man, what's inside it's better be this good, or if not better.
I agree. So before we get off of here, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to mention about this awesome experience you had?
Oh, yeah. So the memo.
Okay.
The memo. We were fortunate to be one of the first people to read it in its entirety. I think it took some time before a legible picture came up, and then, of course, our scanned document kind of made it clearer for everybody. But we were one of the first people to kind of get our hands on it and read it, and so we've had a lot of time to think about it. And you were on to something yesterday in your show yesterday, where you were saying that you don't want to believe, and maybe it's true. Loop 15 is a symbolic representation of what we currently have. It's our current build of No Man's Sky, and that they stopped development on that build, and now they're working on Loop 16, which is the next build.
It does read like that, doesn't it?
Well, I would say it reads exactly like that, because it talks about a lot of the problems that I currently have with the current build. I mean, you can have great computers, or I play the game on PS4 Pro. Which, granted, does not have a great CPU, and I get that. Now I play on the PS4 Pro, but even on the Pro, the drop in of the terrain and the animals, they cause a lot of frame drops. And I'm like, if it's this bad on the Pro, then I couldn't imagine what it's like on the regular PS4. And not everybody has these super powerful rigs, so we're dealing with a lot of things. And it's like, well, we can accurately run the simulation, but we're not able to do it fast enough. That's what the Loop 15 thing was. And if you look at the date, and you didn't mention the date yesterday, I think the date's the most important part. It was April 7th. When was the last 7th. No Man's Sky patch out?
Oh, wow. Never even thought about that.
It was March 27th. It was March 27th, and so they released their last patch, and they ran their tests, and then they compiled a memo basically saying that we're done with this build, and that we're now moving on to Loop 16. And now you could say, well, now you're just speculating or reading in too much. Well, I have a very good friend of mine who works for Steam. He's visited the Hello Game Studio, and he's allowed to talk about some of this. And so for what he's told us, is that while he was visiting the studio, he tested or put his hands on Pathfinder prior to it coming out. And but there was another build of the game, a totally separate build of the game that they would not let him near.
Really?
And he was told that it's something that they're not at all ready for anybody to touch. And it was
man, you just gave me goosebumps.
it was a totally different build of the game. And like they said, they barely caught glimpses of it. And they weren't able to make out any details. But they were told that in that build, portals work.
Oh.
So
wow. I wonder what they do. You know?
No, I don't want everybody like freaking out. All right. And this was months ago. This was 6 months ago. So I want to make sure everybody understands that this is old information. This is something, that he told me a long time ago. And I don't report on stuff like that because, for the most part, people accuse me of clickbait a lot. I really do avoid it. But, the thing is that that's just hearsay. But the truth is that as I've gotten to know Unit Z more, and as I've had other references come out and tell me about him, that he's the real deal. He's very legit, so it's one of those things where I wasn't going to say nothing, but now that we're pretty darn close and we're getting some supporting evidence from the documents, it seems to me that that's probably where we're headed, as a new build of the game. But the question is how big is the new build and what's coming in it? I mean, people are like, they're stuck on portals, and like portals are cool, but that doesn't really change the day-to-day of the game. What changes the day-to-day of the game? What makes the game deeper and more fun to play? Recently, and this has been shared on Twitter, and take it with a grain of salt. It's Twitter jabber. But they're getting the idea that city procedural generation might be a thing. Oh,
yeah.
And they've hired...
Sam Swain, he's now at Hello Games, and
that's right.
He specializes in procedural cities. So yeah,
correct. Yeah, so that's been a thing that people are talking about, and then but the question is, well, how do you do that? And right now we know that they're using an 8-bit engine for their procedural generation. Why is 16 such an important number, and why does it appear everywhere? Are they doing a 16-bit procedural generation engine now?
Oh, wow.
And that's crazy speculation. I would never come out with a video, saying that like, the next No Man's Sky is going to be freaking 16-bit. I'm sure you got a chuckle at the whole PvP confirmed comment in the video that came out. I know you got a chuckle at that, but the thing was that I had a lot of supporting evidence back in the day.
I know you did
say that, and the thing is that it didn't happen, and I was like, well, darn it. So I learned my lesson. We'll wait till we see the patch notes, but we're gonna just kind of like, I didn't even want to say fourth race confirmed. Like, honestly, okay, we see some robots. Are they a fourth race, or maybe they're just robots? Maybe they're not even in the. I don't know. Maybe that's us. You don't know. So there's just so much. As the ARG goes, we get like a little bit more information. Things start to make more sense, but then there's something thrown in there that just makes you go, what? What? I give up. Because I can't make heads or tails out of it. Thank you, Law of Evolution. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here, but I want to tell people where they can find you, some of my audience. You're on Mixer.com now, and the link is down below to follow DM21 Gaming, who you guys are getting ready to do a rebranding. So is the name changing? No, the name's staying the same. We're just going to get a new logo, and we're doing a lot of, let's say, behind-the-scenes culture story stuff. Actually add some real symbolism and real meaning behind our look and feel. Okay,
cool. So if you want to follow DM21 Gaming over on Mixer, the link is down below. If you want to follow him on YouTube, he's been uploading videos here recently. And is that going to continue?
Yes, the idea is to do at least three videos a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where I'll do a vlog on whatever the heck is on my mind. And please don't be put off by like my sort of nonchalant approach to those videos. It's part of the gig. It's like I just woke up, I'm drinking my morning coffee.
Yeah, for like 5 minutes at the end of the video.
And it's not who I am in live stream. It's kind of like a terse, like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess, approach to vlogging. It's meant to be like the laziest videos I've ever made.
Dude, the funny thing about your video where you're sitting there sipping coffee, I watched the video, then I got up, I used the restroom, and I came back, and first I had gone to a different screen, right? And so I'm sitting there, and I'm on Twitter or something, and all of a sudden, it sounded like something was fizzing at my computer. Like, oh God, what's wrong? What's burning? What is this? And then it stopped, and then it happened again, and I'm like, what is that? And I click over because I saw a little speaker on my tab on Mozilla. And you were sitting there just staring at the camera, drinking coffee. And I was like, oh, that's what the noise was. What the heck is he doing?
That's the thing I'm doing at the end of my vlogs now is I'm sitting on a green screen. And no one's done it. No one's taken the bait yet. But basically, I'm sitting in front of the green screen so you can put me in weird places.
Oh, that's
you
awesome.
You can take that video and then just put something. And no one's done it yet. And I'm like, come on now. It's there. It's like I did the #1 thing you're never supposed to do on camera, and that's sit in front of a green screen.
You hear that, guys? Go ahead, put DM21 Gaming in some weird situations. I can't wait to see it. Tweet it at me.
And so at the end of every vlog, I'm going to do something like that. I didn't do it for the rebrand one because I wanted to sit in my own studio. But Mondays we'll do another green screen thing, and I'm like trying to think like maybe I should like hold my cat up and have him like sort of like fly or something, or maybe like get some Lego pieces down and like have like some kind of weird like space battle, and and people could just take it. And I have all sorts of ideas I want to do with the green screen. Just let you guys play with it. And that's the point. So.
That sounds funny. You're a brave man. Thank you, Law of Evolution. Thank you so much, man. Okay, so remember, guys, follow him over on Mixer for all of his live streams. And then go subscribe to him on YouTube and catch his vlogs that he uploads. And DM21, Bicycle Wars, sorry. And Tanantha.
DM21 Gaming is the channel, so if they want to find us, that's what they need to search for. And as far as our live stream content goes, we play quite a bit of No Man's Sky. We hit the center in permadeath, and we did all sorts of stuff, fully recorded, so you guys know we didn't cheat or do anything weird to get there. And it was all sorts of crazy stuff there. So feel free to hang out with us anytime. We'd be more than happy to have you.
Very awesome. Bicycle Walrus and Tanantha, it has been so amazing to have you guys on the show and tell you about your amazing journey. You literally had a journey in real life surrounding No Man's Sky, and I think that's just awesome, and I'm jealous.
It was fun and fantastic, and we were happy to be there. So
it was definitely a fun day. Yeah.
Well, good, man. I'm glad you, of all people, were one of the ones that went out there, fully recorded it. Have behind-the-scenes footage. Go over and check out his video. Footage that nobody else has on the internet. And great coverage, man. Great.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and shut it down. And I'm also going to be putting this awesome conversation in the recap video I'm going to upload. And, dude, I look forward to seeing your videos on YouTube, man. And I'm going to check out Mixer.
Please do. It's great. It's the future of streaming, I promise.
I'll look into it. Maybe I can stream both places. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Thank you, guys. You guys stay awesome. Stay safe. And I don't know, man. Hopefully this update comes in soon. August. My bet is August 12th. Because that's
August 12th? That's a safer bet because they usually release on what was Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like Wednesday was a weird day. But maybe that's like the day that like, okay, that's when we're done developing and we'll kick it off. But they did release something on the dev branch on Steam the other day.
That was just store tags, right?
I don't know anything about the details of it. I just heard that they changed something on the dev build, the experimental branch. And so
I think it was store tags because it had like a highlight of what changed, and they just reversed them. And I tweeted out, okay, come Saturday, I'm going to wake up, change some store tags, and freak everybody out for a second.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, like, those are usually the first signs of a new build coming. When they start playing around that branch. And the thing is I've been very fortunate. I had a contact get a hold of me 2 days before they announced Pathfinder, telling me the update's dropping this week. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And then this dude, he's really weird. I love him. He just shows up everywhere every now and then. And before they started Waking Titan, he got a hold of me and he was like, hey. I'm like, hey. He's like, you still hanging out with No Man's Sky? I'm like, yeah. Cool. Well, I have a feeling there's some rumblings going to be happening soon. And then before I know it, Waking Titan comes live. And I'm like, what the heck is this dude doing? I swear he knows something, but he doesn't talk, he doesn't answer questions, he just drops in and says something and leaves. And I'm like, well, I'll take it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
All right, guys, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and stay awesome, man. Hit me up anytime. I'd love to have you guys back on.
Sure.
All right, guys, take care, man. And everybody that came out in the chat, thank you so much. Don't forget to check them out on Mixer and on YouTube. Links are down below. And I will see you all in the next video.